Hello, and welcome in to another episode of Let Me Live. I am your host, Liv Moods, and before we jump into all things NFL Week 2, I have to remind you, if you are on Instagram, make sure you are joining the Liv Moods betting group chat. It is a broadcast channel that we are putting on the Baller Alert Instagram to talk all things sports bets throughout the week. As you guys know, we are now in the thick of the NFL season. We've got Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and a full Sunday slate of football. I will be in that group chat dropping betting trends, things for you to consider before you place your bets, dropping bets that I like. We can go back and forth and talk player props, anytime touchdown scores. And like I said, just drop you guys information that's hopefully helpful. That way you can make your own bets. But I really want to grow this betting community over here at Baller Alert because sports betting is the future. It's fun, and it makes you invested in games that you normally wouldn't be invested in. If my Denver Broncos aren't playing, typically I wouldn't care. But when there is money on the line, you better believe I am all the way tuned in, focused, and ready to go. So just a reminder, Liv Moods betting group chat on the Baller Alert Instagram. Make sure you go join that group and we can get into some betting trends even for tonight's Monday Night Football game. All that aside, let's do a quick Week 2 NFL recap. We have to start with the Thursday night game between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Miami looked bad. Miami looked really bad. Tua was turning over the ball. They couldn't find their rhythm offensively. Their run game is weak this year. And the Buffalo Bills just came in and absolutely dominated, which they have done throughout the last, 13 games. They have pretty much dominated the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins haven't really stood a chance against the Buffalo Bills over the last couple of seasons, but more importantly, Tua down again with another concussion. This is now his third. He had 2 in 2022. He had 1 in this Thursday night football game. And again, we saw a very similar thing with Tua where his body went into a fencing response, and it's a really scary thing to see. And honestly, it created a lot of conversations across the NFL, especially from media outlets, expressing concern over the longevity of Tua. What does that look like? Is it worth another brain injury if it means that for the rest of his life he's having to deal with CTE, which we know is a very common thing that these football players have to deal with later in life? His brain is too important. He is a family member. I believe he has young children. So it does make a lot of people concerned about what does this mean for Tua in the long haul. Football is obviously a very manly, dangerous, and physical sport, and we know that. And they know that. It's also what pays his bills. This is his job. This is how he provides for his family. But it does make you wonder, is it worth it? Is football worth the health of your brain? Tua can't be Tua without his brain. And we've now watched him 3 times over the last 2 seasons go down in pretty brutal ways. And it's a hard watch. And if you've seen Tua's injuries to his head, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really tough. And then there's also the side of the conversation where it's like, hey, Tua, you got to find a safer way to play football here. We're watching this young rookie, Jaden Daniels, that everybody's getting really excited about what he looks like and what he can bring to this Commanders team. But I'm watching him going, that's not going to last. He has a very dangerous style of play. He takes a lot of risks that are tough for a quarterback to make. Those risks and those decision-making skills. We saw it last year with Anthony Richardson, the rookie, who was playing a really electric and fun to watch style of play, but he got hurt because it was a dangerous style of play. And we know that Tua, he's not always making the best decisions as it pertains to sliding to the ground and avoiding these rough hits. That's neither here nor there. He's still getting hit, and he's still experiencing brain injuries. So it's an important conversation to have. All of that to say, I also really would love if we would stop replaying injuries in slow-mo. I don't need to see it for the 6th time in slow motion. I saw it once. I don't need to see it again. I am not good with stuff like that. It freaks me out. I want to be able to enjoy football and not have to watch violence in slow motion. It's one thing to hear the crunch and see the violence in full speed, slowing it down. It just makes my skin crawl. So obviously sending my best wishes to Tua, and there's some tough decisions he's going to have to make. Obviously brain health, very important, but this is again still his passion, his job, his life. So tough decisions I'm sure he's going to have to make in the upcoming future. I did see a report that he is seeing a concussion specialist, but has no plans to retire. So he is doing his part in trying to make sure that he is fully healthy and ready to go before he returns to the sport that he loves. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we've seen 3 brutal concussions from him over the last 2 seasons. So sending him my best wishes and hoping that we hear from him soon on what his plans are to hopefully avoid this from happening again. The underdogs were barking this weekend, okay? It was kind of a shit show, actually. As you guys know, last week I bet on the Carolina Panthers to cover against the Saints. I didn't think it was a bad bet at the time. It was a laughable bet. Again, in week 2, I faded the Saints. I backed the Cowgirls. I watched Derek Carr turn the Cowboys into the Cowgirls before my very eyes. If you think for 1 second I'm putting the Cowboys near another bet slip of mine, you are sadly mistaken. Never again. I'm also done underestimating Derek Carr because who the hell is that? That is not the Derek Carr that I saw in Las Vegas. This is not the Saints team that I predicted they would be this season. They look great. I'm done fading the Saints, and I'm not putting the Cowgirls near another bet slip. Ever. They are on my do not bet list. We also saw the 49ers losing to Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. If you guys know this, San Francisco actually struggles against Minnesota. One of the NFC teams, period, that this 49ers team has struggled to be competitive against. Of all teams, the Minnesota Vikings, I know. 49ers obviously coming off of a Super Bowl run. They did not win, and we know that the Super Bowl losers tend to have a little bit of a hangover in the first chunk of their season. They have slower starts, takes them some time to get acclimated, to get back into it, shake off the dust. So that might be what we're seeing with the 49ers. Nonetheless, the Ravens couldn't beat the Raiders, okay? Despite getting sacked 5 times and hit 10 different times throughout this game by the Ravens pass rush, Gardner Minshew still managed to finish 30 of 38 for 276 yards and a Raiders win. The Ravens lost, the 49ers lost, the Cowgirls lost, the Chiefs almost lost to the Bengals, who had maybe one of the worst week 1 performances. This is what I mean when I say the NFL is back, and it's insane. It's crazy. Try not to overreact. That's what I told everybody after week 1. Well, I tried not to overreact over the Saints. I lost money. It is a tough sport to bet. It is a tough sport to watch, but we love it. We immerse ourselves in it on Monday nights, Thursday nights, all day Saturday for college football, and all day Sunday for the NFL. So I love it. But yes, week 2 was wild. The underdogs came to play. They looked great. They upset a lot of teams that nobody anticipated would be upset this early in the season, but it happens. However, there are still a lot of weeks of football left, and that is my biggest reminder to you. Don't stress it, because there is plenty of football remaining, okay? Do you think I feel stressed about my Denver Broncos? Yes. I'm more stressed about the fact that I have to keep watching them for this many weeks of football, because I don't think they're going to get any better. Is that an overreaction? Maybe. We have a rookie quarterback. He could turn things around, but I'm not convinced. And if you are a football fan of a team that has struggled to win, that constantly causes you heartache and pain and misery on Sundays, I feel you. I get it. It's tough, which is why sports betting is such a beautiful thing, because I can watch other teams and like other teams on a Sunday that aren't the Denver Broncos, because my money's on them and I want to make money. Duh. Okay, let's get into my hot take. You guys know, if you've been around, if you've watched Live Moods, if you've watched Let Me Live, we've got to have a hot take. And my hot take is this: Baker Mayfield is going to have an MVP level season. I know. Baker Mayfield has grown on me so much. I could not stand him when he was with the Cleveland Browns. Now, hindsight is 2020. It's starting to seem like the Cleveland Browns might be one of the most toxic franchises in the NFL. So I can't imagine playing there is much fun. That's just me making an assumption. However, when he was with the Cleveland Browns, I could not stand his attitude. He was giving that Johnny Manziel, I'm better than everybody energy. I'm inferior. I'm superior. I don't need anybody. I'm here. I'm him. Settle down, buddy. All it took was Baker Mayfield being humbled, brought back down to earth, and passed around the NFL, trying to figure out where home was, for him to land with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, have two of the, on the older end, receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which I don't think many people doubted Mike Evans and Chris Godwin coming into this season. But, as your body starts to age, especially as this league gets younger and faster and stronger, I don't think anyone really looked at this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team and said, they're going to be an MVP level offense. Well, with Baker Mayfield slinging that thing, he looks good. I don't know if it's the fact that he just had a kid and he's in dad mode. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that he got humbled and passed around and then finally landed in a place that felt comfortable, that he could call home, and that he could make his own. And he is finally maybe reaching his NFL peak. Can you believe it? This was a guy that came out of college that everybody talked about. He was him. He came from OU. Everybody loved Baker Mayfield. And then he got humbled quickly in the NFL. You may be a hot shot at OU, but here in the big leagues, we don't care about all that. You got to win games, and he wasn't doing that. And then he got passed around, and now he's in Tampa Bay, and he is balling out, okay? Over the first 2 weeks, Baker has a 73.5% completion percentage, 474 total yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. This is all coming off of a career year. Baker Mayfield, MVP level season. Book it. It's happening. There you go. That's my hot take. And then finally, we will end with some betting education, of course. Like I said, the underdogs were barking. 6 underdogs won outright. And you may be sitting there saying, what does winning outright mean? Okay, let's go down to the very, very basics of sports betting. If you are new to sports betting, let me help you out. You've got spread, you've got money line, you've got total. Let's start with money line. I would like to say, in my personal opinion, money line is probably the easiest place to start in terms of trying to understand sports betting and just making a very simple call. Money line means you're picking the winner of the game. It's that simple. They don't need to win by a certain amount. You're just saying, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will beat the Lions. So I'm going to bet the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the money line. Money line means winner of game. That's it. So if you have a team that is plus money odds, if there is a plus sign beside their odds, that's the underdog. Just think about it this way. The underdog has a lower chance of winning the game. So when the plus sign is there, you can make your brain think, okay, it's a plus because I'm going to win more money if the underdog wins. So underdog equals plus. The minus is the favorite. I know it feels very ass backwards, but that's just how it works, okay? So money line, you're choosing a winner. It's that simple. I think this team is beating this team, so I'm putting my money line on the team that's gonna win, okay? The spread is a little more complicated. The spread, you actually have to predict how many points the team will win by, or can the underdog close the gap? So I'm going to give you an example. I'll use the Denver Broncos versus the Pittsburgh Steelers as my example. The Broncos were playing at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, the Broncos were 2.5 point underdogs, okay? So their line was plus 2.5. Their spread was plus 2.5. The Steelers were minus 2.5, meaning Vegas predicted that the Steelers should win by at least 2.5 points. Like I talked about last week, there's no half points in football, right? So if you bet the Steelers minus 2.5, they had to win by at least 3. Now, if you took the Broncos plus 2.5, they didn't necessarily have to win, but they had to lose by less than 2.5. So it had to be a 2-point game, a 1-point game, or they just win. Cool? So plus means underdog. I know it's backwards. The spread, it's a point system. So they can't just win, they also have to cover the spread. Meaning if you bet on, and I don't know if these are the lines, but if you bet on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win against the Lions, but the spread was minus 10 and they only won by 3, you didn't make money. They had to cover that spread. So that's why that number is there, because they can't just win, they have to also cover whatever number Vegas has set. The total is the number of points that are scored. Oftentimes you'll see that number hovering in those 40 ranges, like 43.5. If you take the over on that number, there's got to be more than 43.5 points scored total in that game by either team. If you take the under, it's got to be a low scoring game and go under 43.5. So 43 points or below. So you've got the spread, which is the point differential between the two teams. You've got money line, which is an outright winner. And you've got the total, which is the total number of points scored by either team or both teams combined. So hopefully that helps as you place your bets for week 3 in the NFL. Like I said, we're in the thick of it, folks. We are here. Betting is going to happen. Make sure you are joining the Live Moods betting group chat on the Baller Alert Instagram. I'm going to be dropping trends. I'm going to be dropping information, stats, injuries, and most importantly, bets that I like. But if you hate my bets and if you don't trust me with your money, then drop your bets and I'll tell you. We're building a community here. We're getting into sports betting. We're getting into the NFL season, and I cannot wait. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Let Me Live. Much love, and we'll see you again next week to recap and talk all things betting following week 3 in the NFL. See ya.